A homeless shelter in Waseca has been given funding by the county. Aaron Stuvey takes us to the shelter to learn about how they plan to use the money and just how much demand there is for homeless support in rural communities.
I don't think the community at large has ever really grasped how much homelessness and how much need there is even in the small community of Waseca.
Bethlehem Inn is a shelter for women and children experiencing homelessness in Waseca. The shelter opened in 2019 in the building of a former church and now works to address a problem that they believe often goes overlooked.
Many people would think that a small area like Waseca does not have a homelessness problem. However, in the past year, we have received 105 referrals from women seeking shelter because they're in a homeless situation. So there is definitely a need for that.
In late December, the shelter received funding from the Waseca County Board of Commissioners. The money was originally planned to be used on a low-income housing project, but the plans fell through. So now Bethlehem Inn plans to use the new influx of money to help their aftercare program, which is meant to help people staying in the shelter find arrangements once their stay is done. Bethlehem Inn says that while they love helping families who come in need, their end goal is for families to never have to come back once they leave.
With them, staying in sustainable, supportive housing is going to help so many other factors of their life fall into place.
In Waseca, I'm Aaron Stuvey.